There's a total of 5 kids in my family. I'm the oldest, and then it goes all the way down to my youngest brother. Growing up, it was kind of like a traditional household. My dad particularly was one of those parents where it's like you're the oldest, so you set the standard. So if you mess up, you're gonna set the role model for the kids. So I was always kind of the one punished a little bit harsher than the other kids. It was a weird observation as a child watching my siblings grow up. I was kind of like in the background, if that makes sense. And that kind of went on for at pretty much up until high school. And then around high school, I kind of just became my own person. I just really kind of disconnected a little bit. I was there with my family, but I wasn't at the same time. My mom was very caring. She was gentle. She didn't really have a strict parenting style. She was more of the type of person where she wanted to connect with you emotionally and figure out why you did something rather than just punish you. My dad is the complete opposite. So there was a lot of times where I would get in trouble for something and my dad was a little harsh about it. And I would be in trouble, and then that would cause an argument between my parents because my mom wouldn't agree with how he handled the situation. And that led to like a series of arguments that they've had over the years. So my grandma, so specifically it's my dad's mom. I don't remember quite when she became a part of the picture, but she had been there for at least a decade, like in our physical household. And I know she contributed a little bit to how my dad was as a parent too, because he kind of lacked, and he's even admitted that she was kind of the same way towards him. And so it was kind of like a learned behavior. And so she was kind of like that second mom to a lot of the kids. And we called her grandma, but when mom wasn't there, she was pretty much the one taking care of everything. So I could tell the aggression aspect was there. Like if she was upset about something, she'd get very like verbal about something, but she would never be physical about anything. She never like said anything hurtful. She just kind of expressed the way she was feeling in a very loud manner. But that's about it. So my dad, that was kind of one of his harsh parenting tactics was sometimes, and me particularly, I was kind of the one he singled out because I've always kind of been like an open mouth type of character. So if I didn't agree with something, you will know. And there would be a lot of times where I would outcompete him in a way with words where he basically wouldn't have a way to explain how I'm wrong. So instead he would stop talking and he'd just punch. And that's pretty much how a lot of our disputes were ever handled. We would argue, he'd get physical, and then we just don't talk to each other for 2 weeks, and then we forget why we were even mad at each other in the first place. I don't know how to explain it, but there was one time where I had like eaten a piece of candy that was his or something, and it was one of the more physical fights that we have ever gotten in, and I had bruises like on my face and on my arms, and I remember my mom being very silent towards him, like she wouldn't talk to him. She was just avoiding him because she was just angry. She actually was the one that chose to keep me home from school that day, and she was like looking online for how to get rid of a bruise, how to get rid of pain like associated with what was going on. So and that happened a lot where it was my dad would get physical and then he'd just go to work like nothing happened, and she would stay behind and mend those things. So I definitely do feel her sadness. She was very upset about it, and I know that because shortly before she passed, we had a very like a heart to heart that my dad wasn't interested in being in, and she kind of just said that she knows that I was raised in a very cruel way. She understands like the pain that I must have been through and the injuries I've had and sustained, and she would just say that she's sorry, that she wished she could go back and fix everything, but she said I can't fix a broken character, and that was something that she said that has just stuck with me since. Me and my grandma's relationship was kind of weird. It was kind of like the best way I can describe it. It was like a brother sister type of relationship, where we would just bully each other for no reason at all. And it wasn't like a disrespectful thing. It would be like, I'd be like, well, you're getting old, so you probably can't hear me anyways. And she'd be like, well, you probably can't see me because you have your eyes in your phone all day, like stuff like that. And that's kind of just how we bonded. Like I would come home from work and I'd tell her all the gossip from work, and she'd come home and she'd tell me all the gossip from her work. and then we'd go to sleep. Like it was like clockwork. That's what we did every day. It was this on December 4th, 2021. We were talking about drama, work drama, just complaining about how much we hate capitalism and that we wish we could just live for free. And it was a normal day. Like nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Nothing seemed odd, different. Nothing. She seemed normal. And then we went to bed. We ended the day, and I went to work the following morning at 9 a.m. And I'd say probably at around 11:30, my mom calls where I worked, and I can hear the phone ringing, but it's ringing for like a good 3 or 4 minutes, and nobody's answering. There are people over there by the phone, but they're not answering. So I'm like, I go over there, I answer the phone, and it's my mom. And I don't remember specifically what she said, but I remember her telling me like she hates that she has to say this over the phone and while I'm at work. But she basically told me that my grandma had passed that morning. I immediately raced home. I kind of just dropped everything. I went home. She was standing outside, and we probably were standing there for a good 10 minutes crying just outside the front doorstep because she didn't want me to come through the back door, which is the entrance we would normally use, because that's where she was, in the kitchen. I don't quite remember exactly everything that followed after that, but it just happened really fast. December 4th, she was her normal self, and she didn't seem sick or out of the ordinary. Like they say, people just have a weird vibe to them when they're about to pass, and I just didn't feel that. And then the next day she was gone. So my dad tried to hide his emotions a lot. He did cry for the first time that I had seen in many years. I saw him cry when my great-grandmother passed away in 2016, but I've never really seen him cry that much before. And I could tell it hurt him, but he was kind of trying to keep that in more of a, I'm hurt because somebody died, I'm not hurt because I'm emotional. It's a weird thing to describe, but that's kind of what it felt like. It just seemed like there was a barrier broken that he couldn't hold up anymore. And then he would just go back to kind of just pretending like nothing happens. Like when we were planning the funeral, he was just normal. Like it was only like maybe the day after and like a couple days after her death that he was really emotional, and then it was just click, nothing. He definitely was more aggressive. We didn't really argue or anything. I think we were like the entire household was just kind of traumatized. I was the one that broke to the kids that their grandma passed away. So there was like this weird environment, like a weird bubble per se, that we were just trying to stay within, and we weren't trying to disrupt anything, if that makes sense. He definitely was getting a little bit irate about certain things, like nothing particular, but he was just being aggressive on little things more than usual. But other than that, it didn't really affect him that greatly. I can't really tell if it was which hurt worse, my grandma passing away or standing in the kitchen to tell the kids that their grandma passed away. In my opinion, it's different getting a call from your mom saying that grandma passed away versus standing in a kitchen and you've gathered all your siblings and they're sitting at the dining room table waiting to hear, oh, grandma's gonna be okay. She's just in the hospital. She's gonna be okay. And instead they hear that she passed away because they saw what happened. They saw everything. And my mom was the one that chose to send her off to one of our friends' house so they wouldn't have to see anymore. Honestly, I think that hurt more. And I think that's what kind of stuck in my head for like a good week after that. I have never in my life heard my siblings cry in the way that they cried that day. I would say grief is confusing. I feel like sometimes we try to understand our grief when we're going through grief, and it just kind of makes it a little worse. For me, I felt very sad at moments, and then I didn't feel anything at all. And I almost felt guilty for not feeling anything at all because I felt like I was dishonoring her death and her life that she had because I didn't feel emotional at that time. And then there were days where I couldn't get out of bed because I just couldn't stop sobbing, and I think an excellent way to describe grief is just confusing because there is no timeline, there's no rule book, there's no set of like step-by-step guides you can follow. It's just, you just have to wait till your body tells you what you're going to feel the next day. Over the first few weeks, like maybe through November into December, I was planning a Christmas party Because I've always just been, I just like to have Christmas parties. It's just like, I would have a birthday party, but I'd really have a Christmas party, you know? And so I had invited a bunch of friends from school, and one of my friends invited a couple other people. And it was set for December 23rd. And everything went accordingly. You know, we were having fun. We were playing on the Wii downstairs in the basement. My mom was getting ready. She actually made her famous macaroni and cheese. Good thing. I wish I could have some today, but very good mac and cheese that she made. Unfortunately, we did not get to have any because later that night, I can't be specific, but there was a shooting, and my mom did pass away, and my dad was injured in his arm and his hand. So what was a nice Christmas party turned very tragic very quickly, and that alone was traumatizing because we went from having a conversation about how we wish we could just have a stockpile of food instead of having to go buy food every day to me comforting my younger brother in the front yard, telling him that mom's going to be okay. Because unfortunately they saw her getting carried away in a gurney through the front door because they had no other way to get out. That night particularly was the hardest night of my life, and I can say that and be completely honest with you. It was the hardest night of my life because the first thing that happened after the shooting is we were all kind of hiding, obviously, and I immediately ran to find my parents because I assumed that they were in the vicinity of that gun, and so one of them has to be hurt. There was actually droplets of blood leading to their bedroom door, and I kind of followed that, and I tried to open it, didn't open, so I kind of just like busted through the door, and I found my mother laying on the ground, and she was bleeding a lot. And my dad was also bleeding from his hand, and he was trying to fumble his phone, like trying to get it to, like, he's trying to talk to the 911 operator, but he's like trying to keep it in his hand, but he can't grip it. So I told him, like, I don't know what clicked in my head. I don't know if it was, the medical training I've been through for school or what it was, but something just clicked, and I told him, I was like, put the phone on the ground, help me move this, help me move that. It took a good couple of minutes before I realized I was doing emergency first aid on my mom. And it wasn't until then it clicked in my head that my mom is laying on this ground right now. She's the one that is shot, and I can't tell, but it looks like she's been shot in a critical spot because she was bleeding a lot. I heard sirens, and I immediately ran to the front door, and I don't remember who the police officer was, but she kind of just ordered everybody out of the house. As I was walking, I kind of my little brother was trying to come towards me because he was trying to figure out what was going on, and I just kind of like grabbed him and I ran out the door. And we sat in that front lawn for maybe 30, 40 minutes, and it was 20 degrees outside. We didn't have anything on except, t-shirts and basketball shorts because we were all just inside. Fast forward, the police department's arriving. They're asking questions and whatnot. When they let us leave the property, we go to the hospital, and we're waiting there for at least what felt like hours. I'm sure it wasn't, but it felt like hours and hours and hours. And then the hospital chaplain came out, and he said, I need you to come with me. And in the hallway, he tells me that he wants me to sit with my father. And in my head, I was it's either he's not going to make it through whatever he's about to go through, or it's my mom. And the chaplain pulled up a chair next to my dad's operating table, and my dad was actually the one that told me she did not make it. And the way that he said it, it was I have never heard that type of emotional inflection in his voice, but it was a mix of, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm confused, I'm worried, all in the words of, she did not make it. And I asked her, I told him, I was like, you're lying to me. Where is she? And he says, she didn't make it. And I refused to believe what he was saying at first. It kind of my brain just accepted the fact, and I was like, what are we going to do? And he said, I don't know. I really don't know. And then he just turned over, and I could see a tear rolling down his cheek. And I remember breaking down. I literally collapsed on the ground, and I just cried for a very long time. Eventually, a nurse, I think, it was either a nurse or one of the chaplains came and grabbed me. And my older sister, who, not biological, but I consider her my sister, and my dad's friend, and I think one of my friends actually that was at the Christmas party, were in this little room. I don't know if it was like a conference room or something, but it was like a family room that they put family members in while they wait for stuff. And I went in there, and my sister Keely was sitting in the corner, and as soon as I opened the door, she read me, and she immediately knew what I was going to say. And she got up and she started crying, and I just kind of whispered in her ear. I said she didn't make it. And she said, I didn't think she would. And I don't remember exactly what happened after that. I do know my dad's friend was trying to call my mom's family, who they live in North Carolina. We couldn't get a hold of them. I don't know when they got a hold of them at all. But I know after that, I know we went back home, and for a good week probably, all I could hear, I wouldn't hear it any other time except when I'm trying to go to sleep. I would just hear the gurgling sound that she was making when she was laying on the ground in the bedroom. That's all I could hear. Me and my mom were really close. She was kind of like the refuge character in my life. She understood everything I was going through, it seemed like. Maybe she didn't, but it is that motherly role that she played that she understood everything I was telling her. We bonded over many things. Like we would have reading competitions where we would compete against each other on how fast we could read a book series, or we both had a childhood fascination with like weather and storms and things like that. So that was something we connected on, and generally speaking, we were both nerds. You know, we just loved science, we loved books, we just loved to talk about things that, my dad wouldn't talk about or wouldn't even understand, honestly. That's kind of just how we bonded. And whenever something serious would happen with my father in regards to me, she was kind of the one that stepped in and made me understand, like, it's not your fault. Like, he did do something wrong, and he might make it seem like that it was your fault, but you are your own person, and if somebody hurts you, they hurt you. You didn't hurt yourself. And that was one of the most important lessons, and it's one of the reasons why I'm sitting in this chair today still. I did like hit a point in my life where I didn't think I was going to move on, and she was the one that was there to kind of guide me to a better place mentally after everything I was going through at that time. So I would say the relationship with my mom was very, very close up until the day she died. I was beating myself up over the fact, like, it was my Christmas party that started this all. So in my head, I was telling myself, I was like, I'm the reason why she's dead. I'm the reason. And there was a point where my dad spoke the words, "You're the reason why my wife is dead." And immediately after that, I contemplated suicide. I don't know what I was thinking about, but it was either this will end my pain or I will see my mom. If there is an afterlife, then I'll see my mom. But if there isn't, at least I won't be in pain. That was what I was thinking about pretty much 24/7 every day. Going to school, going to work, I was thinking about that. Weighing, who am I going to hurt if I do this? Is it worth it? Am I really going to be, painless if I do this? Am I going to just cause more pain for the people that love me just as much as they love my mom? I wouldn't say anybody has replaced my mom. I would say she's still relevant, if that makes sense, just in a different way. Since I have not really had anybody to look up to in the way that I looked up to her, I've kind of just engraved her memory in physical things. I designed a t-shirt with her, like, it's like a memorial t-shirt. I designed that, and I gave it to people, and in my eyes, that is like the continuation of her helping people, because now she's physically, not as a human, but as a memory, she's physically with these people that loved her and miss her too. And my necklace, she loved turtles. It doesn't matter what kind of turtle it was, if it was a piece of chocolate, if it was a real turtle, if it was a picture of a turtle, she loved it. And so this necklace I'm wearing actually is her ashes. It says Alexia on it. And then right next to it is a golden turtle. And I wear this everywhere I go. Unless I'm going to sleep, I'm wearing this necklace. So the reason why my mom is unfortunately the one that passed away, and I've mentioned this already, but she was the protector in a way. She was the one that she would throw her life away and to make sure that her kids were okay. My dad was in a sense that way, but sometimes it kind of just felt like he wanted an excuse to be a big man about things, you know. But my mom was the one that was her heart was there for that type of thing. And when this event was happening, she was the one standing at that door, making sure nothing was coming into that house that wasn't welcome. And she actually said that you're gonna have to kill me before you get to anybody else, and that's unfortunately what happened. And you can ask anybody that was there that night who they think she was, and they would tell you she's a hero. Because in my true self right now, I do not think I would have survived that night if she did not do what she did. A lot of my friends probably haven't opened up about what the trauma they experienced that night because they understand what happened to me too, and and me personally, I feel that they would think that they'd be impeding my own trauma by just saying that they have trauma too, and that wraps back down to grief is confusing. One of my friends, even I think her therapist even said that she might have secondhand trauma from the experience that just of hearing what happened. Because I actually called her after that, and I repeatedly said over the phone, like, he shot my mom, he shot my mom, he shot my mom. That alone I can only imagine that's traumatizing. I can't imagine what would be like you living a normal night and then you get a call like that, you know? And I can definitely tell that there's a little bit of hurt there. A lot of it's sympathy. Like, nobody knew my mom like I knew my mom, but a lot of them did and like enjoy her as a person, and they do truly miss her. It's just I don't think it's enough to hurt in a way, or at least as much as they've told me. Regarding my siblings, you know, I can tell it's hurt them, but unfortunately, my dad is also mentally hurting too, and given the fact that he doesn't want to find the resources to heal, it's kind of backfiring on them. You know, learning unhealthy habits to cope with grief and trauma. Um, yeah, that's kind of how that's affected them. I want my mom's story to be heard because it's my story, but it's also her story. And I truly believe that if people heard a story like this, and they might think that they're going through something as unique as I am, and I might have even described things as it's unique to my situation, but sometimes it's really not. It's just so not talked about that it makes it seem unique, and that's what I want to do with this video is I want to talk about it. I want people to know that they're not alone. You know, I was a senior in high school. I was going to walk that stage and my mom be in the crowd, you know, and unfortunately she wasn't there. And I can only imagine there's kids all over the country that are graduating this year or even last year, and that one loved one that they really wanted to be there won't be there this year. I just want people to know that you can get through this. I'm here a year and a half later telling the story. I made it. I made it here. I survived. And at the same time, it's also therapeutic for me to just talk about it. And maybe this video will spark an interest in other students and other kids that are going through something similar. And just to talk about it, it might not be this type of format. It might not be talking about it with anybody. It could just be, you know, writing it down or something. But that's what I want this video to do, is to spark that communication about what it is that people are going through. I think that when one of us as humans goes through something like this, I think that we just need to stop trying to figure out how to help in a way, like just talking to them. I think just sit there and listen. Let them talk about what's going on. That alone can fix, not necessarily fix, but it can heal a lot. You know, just the conversations I've had today, I've thought, I'm like, I'm healing. I feel myself healing. And I think that as a society, we try too much to be logical about a situation that we really don't understand. We don't have much logic to grief. We just understand that grief exists. And sometimes we drown out what we should be thinking about with what we think we should be thinking about. I truly believe that we should stop trying to understand the things that we feel in a way. And just talk about how we feel, like understand our emotions, not try to drown it out with some kind of logical, you know, I don't really know how to explain that, but it makes sense in my head too, that we just need to stop trying to understand things, that we just need to feel it. We just need to talk about it. I don't know what it is, but something about us as humans, hearing each other tell each other stories, it's enlightening. It gives us that type. It's like a special type of motivation to get whatever it is on our minds, like get it through, get through whatever it is that's bothering us. For me personally, just talking about what's going on in my life has kind of helped me get over an invisible barrier that I've had, like with just work performance alone, and just my life. I've been able to kind of just focus a little bit more because I might not have been thinking about it a lot, but now that I've talked about it and people are listening, and I know that they're truly listening, I feel like I don't have to keep the story in my head the whole time. I know that other people have that story too, and they know it. I don't have to keep it saved on my brain's hard drive just because I'm afraid of my mom's story disappearing, you know? And when people listen, it kind of gives you that type of comfort that story's out there and people know who she was. They know who I am, and they know what I'm going through. And I can kind of let go at this point. I don't have to hold on to that overbearing trauma anymore. So the most important thing is not to give up. I almost did give up. And it's not easy just to simply not give up. Everybody's going to say, just keep hang in there. It's not that easy. And we both know that. But the first thing you need to do is you need to recognize that you can do this. You can heal, you can grow, you can learn, and you'll make it through this. It's going to be hard, but it's possible. So if you're watching this and you're going through something that I am also going through, do not hesitate to text 494949. There are people here that are willing to hear your story. They're here to listen and help you grow and heal. All you have to do is tell your story.